Okay, hi all, welcome to my kitchen. Today is Tuesday the 9th, and normally on Tuesdays I don't record, but this being my last Tuesday of not posting a video, I figured I would record something because we're doing something a little bit different tonight, or today. It's 2:51, I've got class from 6 to 9 p.m., and rather than us both eating so late, we're going to have an earlier dinner. So in about an hour, I'm going to fire up the grill, and I'm going to grill some pork chops. I know there are videos of me doing that, so those are pretty self-explanatory. They're bone-in, center-cut loin chops. You really don't need to do much to them. Season them. Have them on a fairly high temperature, between 450 and 550 is where I like to go with pork chops. And they take about 12 minutes to cook thoroughly. But tonight we're going to do something different, and that's making smashed cauliflower. And smashed cauliflower is really good if you're looking for a good way to avoid carbohydrates, or you're on a low potassium, low salt diet. We're going to make this a little bit better. We're going to do a little bit of cheese and a little bit of garlic, and we're going to be using the food processor for this. So, it's a little bit early for me to do it, but what you're going to need is you're going to need a steamer. And this is my steamer. This is the All-Clad steamer. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to steam your cauliflower for about 12 to 15 minutes, depending on how big the head of cauliflower that you have is. What you basically want it to do is to get soft enough to where it's fork tender, but not overcook it so that it falls apart when you fork it. So I'm going to get that ready. You're also, for this recipe, you're going to need pepper, a little bit of salt, and that's just for the cauliflower. You're going to need cream cheese, garlic. You can also use Boursin's cheese in this. You don't have to use cream cheese. What sometimes I do is I'll use half a stick of cream cheese and and the whole entire Boursin cheese. And it just gives it a nice, richer flavor when you smash it. And by smashing it, you just pulsate it until it becomes creamy, and that becomes a potato-like consistency, and it pairs really well with either poultry, or you can certainly make this with pork chops. You can also do it with beef. You can do it with lamb. It's a really good vegetable side dish that you don't need to worry about anything else accompanying it. So that's going to be dinner tonight. Stay tuned in an hour as I get things ready and we start to cook. Okay, y'all, I'm back. I know I said 4 o'clock. It's just over 3 o'clock. I got the grill ready. I'm going to grab the pork chops and do those, and we're going to prepare the cauliflower. I'm not going to start anything for about 45 minutes because it's going to take a while for my mini max to heat up, since I put really big new charcoal in it, and I want to get it pretty hot. So, I'm going to flip you guys around with me. And I'm just going to do like I always do when it comes to grilling, is I'm going to grab a plate to put the pork chops on. I'm also going to grab the pork chops out of the refrigerator. Normally I'm stocked up and I have a lot of pork chops in the refrigerator, but because of the time crunch, I didn't pull any out to defrost, so I just bought 2 fresh ones. And I'm going to grab the swamp venom, because we're going to do a rub on them today, since we're not really doing anything other than the pork chops and the cauliflower. And the reason I'm prepping the pork chops first is you want to let them just soak up the rub, but you also want to let them just sit out for a little while to get nice. So I'm going to grab my olive oil. And it's a much, much nicer day than it was yesterday. It is actually sunny. And it's a nice day to grill. And you can do a lot of stuff to pork chops. You could put garlic on it. You could put rub on it. With pork, it really doesn't matter what you do. And these are pretty big pork chops. Okay, so now that those are done, I'm going to pop those in the microwave for a while. I'm just going to let them sit. I'm going to give my hands a quick wash. And with the cauliflower, you want to be a little bit careful of when you do it. You don't really want to do it too much of ahead of time, because if you do, oops, and I'm sorry you guys are wiggling a little bit. What usually happens with the cauliflower is it will actually get cold and it won't taste as good. So you want it to be as warm as possible after you make it. So I'm going to put you guys, I'm going to leave you guys alone. I'm going to actually flip you guys for a second. It was a toss-up between cauliflower tonight or Brussels sprouts. My husband's not a huge fan of Brussels sprouts, but we'll have them more likely when I do a lamb dish. I'm going to roast them with a little bit of garlic. So, let me get the cauliflower out of the refrigerator. And this is just a medium head of cauliflower, so it's not all that big, but it will make quite a bit of smashed cauliflower. And if you're worried about making too much smashed cauliflower, you can always cut your head of cauliflower in half and do half of the recipe. So, for this, we're going to need a cutting board and a fairly good knife. And I'm going to use the butcher knife. I'm going to put you guys down where I normally do. You're not going to be able to see me, but you'll be able to see this. And hopefully you won't be bouncing too much. Okay. So all of this you want to get rid of. You don't want any of that in your cauliflower, in your smashed cauliflower. So you can always save this for a vegetable soup. It does make a good stock for that. I'm not doing that. You don't need to necessarily cut the flowets, the heads of the cauliflower off. It's personal preference. If you have a big enough steamer, you can certainly steam the whole entire head. But you want to get as much of the bottom off as possible. Actually, I'm just gonna see how much of this is gonna fit in. And I may actually do a half. I may not do this whole cauliflower tonight. I'm just gonna grab a couple of the florets off. And that's plenty for the two of us. So I'm going to show you guys how much is in there. That's enough for tonight. I'm going to leave this one. I'm going to put this one back in the refrigerator and save that for another day. Like I said, you really don't have to go overboard with this. It depends on how many people you're feeding. Since it's just two of us, I did about 3/4 of the head of cauliflower. So I'm not putting water on the bottom yet because I'm not ready to start to steam this. This is going to take longer than the pork chops will. So I'm going to start this in about half an hour to 45 minutes to get it ready. It should take about 15 minutes to soften enough to go on to the next step. So I'm going to stop the video now. I'll pick it up when I start to actually cook. Okay, y'all, welcome back to my kitchen. I filled the steamer with about 1 inch of water. You don't want to actually put too much water when you're steaming something. 1 inch is more than enough to fully steam. Sometimes if you're doing a lot of different things, or if you're steaming a lot of stuff, you need a little bit more water, but the steam is actually what's going to cook the vegetable. So I'm going to turn on that, and I'm just going to keep it on a medium-high heat source. And you want to wait till the water starts boiling at the bottom before you start timing it. Like I said, with the steamed cauliflower, it will take about 12 to 15 minutes for cauliflower. And to test for doneness, what you're going to do is you're going to use either a paring knife or you can use a fork. When it goes through really easy, your cauliflower is done, take it off the heat source. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the food processor to combine everything. The reason I use a food processor versus a mixer is a lot of times what happens when you add colder cheeses to it, what happens is it gets really lumpy, and you don't want that with your cauliflower. You're also going to want a little olive oil, and if you want to increase your flavor when you make the smashed cauliflower, you can use a little bit of chicken stock to thin it out, but you don't want to use too much chicken stock to make it too watery. You want to have it more like a mashed potato consistency. So while that's cooking, my grill is fully heated. I'm going to wait about 5 minutes before I put on the pork chops to grill those, so that by the time the pork chops come off, this will be ready to process in the food processor, and it'll be ready to serve with the pork chops. Now, because we're eating a little bit healthier, we're also having a garden salad with this. And that's predominantly all we're doing for dinner. I'm going to show you exactly how to do the smashed cauliflower as soon as cauliflower finishes. So let me go set up everything. I'll be right back.